Hi everyone. Today we're going to discuss about the very important topic for the sterile product or the injectables, which is the container closure integrity test. So first thing first, its definition. Container closure integrity is an ability of container closure system to maintain a sterile barrier and protect the drug product from the contamination, moisture, moisture loss, oxygen ingress, or the leakage. A container closure system indicate all the packaging component that together protect the product. Examples are for example, container are the glass vial, syringe, ampules. In closures, we have rubber stopper. In seal, we have aluminum crimp seal. And secondary could include the overwrap or the administration port. The entire system must remain leak proof during the shelf life. That's the that's when we will call the container closure is integrated. And to test that, we perform container closure integrity test. But the question might come to our mind like why it's important. So for sterile product, contamination can cause the patient infection. Obviously, if the product got contaminated, it may enter the patient because we are administering it directly into the bloodstream. So that's why it's more risky. It could cause the patient infection, as well as if there is sacrifice of the integrity of container closure or the product, then in that case, the whole batch we may need to recall, and this may also lead to some regulatory actions. Therefore, the sterile product must remain free from microbial contamination during the entire shelf life. And the regulators require proof. What proof they require? First, the package prevent the microbial ingress, means microbial should not be able to enter your final product, and the seal remain intact throughout its shelf life. Then why sterility testing alone is not enough? Historically, companies use sterility testing in stability studies, but this has some major limitation. For example, what are the limitations of sterility testing? Sterility testing detect only microorganism present during that test. So it not going to ensure that the product will going to remain free from microorganism throughout its shelf life. It might happen that after some days, the it the container or the closure got sacrificed with its integrity, and that leads to an contamination of the product, and that's how this microorganism enters into our final product. So that's not acceptable. So what is the way to test the to ensure the integrity of that container closure? So for that, we have this container closure integrity test, and that can't be done with the sterility testing. Then second point is the organism must grow in culture media. Let's suppose there is some organism which is not growing in particular media, then we cannot identify that microorganism. So that is also a limitation of this sterility testing. The third limitation is the risk of false positive from the lab contamination. Sometimes it might happen that the your product is free from the microorganism, but while performing tests, some microbes enter into your media while growing that. So that may lead to false positive results. So that is also one of the limitation. Then last one we have destructive test, like whatever sample that you are going to use that can't be reused. So that's why it's destructive test. And because of this limitation, FDA allow container closure integrity test instead of sterility testing during the stability studies. Then what are the regulatory requirements? The key regulations and their requirement. In that, you need to remember this one. USP 1207, which is related to the container closure integrity testing. You can also remember rest of these, but not that important. Then FDA recommends container closure integrity testing for stability studies as well as for the annual integrity testing and expiration time point testing. So for all these three, FDA recommends this our container closure integrity test. But the important rule that we have to remember, like container closure integrity test cannot replace sterility testing at the batch release. At the batch release, you have to perform the sterility test. There is no alternative as a container closure integrity test. For this condition, you can use container closure integrity test, but not for the batch release test. At that time, you have to perform the sterility test as well as container closure integrity test. Then we have types of container closure system. This we are quite well aware with the what kind of container closure systems we have. Let's discuss it very quickly. First one, we have vial system. In that we have glass vial, double stopper, aluminum seal, and it's used for injectable biologics and vaccines. Then we have pre-filled syringes, which has pre-filled syringe barrel, then plunger stopper and tip cap, as well as it's used for the insulin as well as monoclonal antibodies. We also have ampules. Its components are the glass ampule and flame seal. It's flame seal and it's hermetically sealed. This is an advantage. Then we have IV bags. Components are the plastic bag, ports, and overwrap. Now we'll discuss which are two main types of container closure integrity methods. The first one, we have probabilistic method. This is a traditional one, and currently the FDA does not recommend performing this test. We have more advanced, which are the deterministic method. These are instrument-based modern methods, and FDA recommend to use the deterministic method. But we will discuss both of them. First one, probabilistic method. These are traditional. These depend only on probability of detecting leaks. In that, we have some simple tests like dye ingress test. In that, container immerse into the dye. So this is simple test. There is one. They take a dye. Let's suppose. Oh, let me. Okay. Let's suppose this is a dye that they have taken into some container. Then what they will do, they will simply immerse uh, their uh, their container closure or whatever the final product into this dye, and they will check if the dye able to enter our product. So principle is the container immerse in a dye and vacuum is applied, then they applied some vacuum as well, and dye enters through the leaks. If there are leak into the our product container closure, then this dye will enter our product. So that's how it's tested. Procedure: simply fill the container, then immerse dye solution, apply vacuum, release vacuum, and inspect the dye inside. If there is dye present, that means the container has lose its integrity. That's why dye enter into the our final product, and that's how the test fails. So dye should not enter. That's the principle. What are the advantages of this? First one, very simple. We don't need any advanced equipment. Then second one is low cost. Limitations are subjective and low sensitivity. The second test, we have microbial ingress test. Again here the container emerge into the microbial suspension, and if the leak exists, microorganism will enter, and the used microorganism is the Brevendemonas diminuta, and its limitations are the very time consuming because we have to grow it onto the media and we have to test that. So that's one limitation, and second one is the regulatory acceptance is decreasing now. The third traditional method we have is the bubble emission test, where we simply apply the vacuum and observe if the bubbles are escaping, and it's used for the flexible packaging. Moving on to the deterministic methods or the modern method, here the regulators now prefer the deterministic method. Why? Because they are the quantitative, sensitive, reproducible, and automated. The first modern method we have is the vacuum decay test. Here the container is placed into the vacuum chamber. If the leak exists, pressure change occur, and this can be measured into the advanced equipment. And advantages are the non-destructive, highly sensitive, and automated. It's used for vial syringe as well as the blister packings. Moving on to the second advanced test, we have helium leak test. Here the principle is helium gas used as a tracer. Steps: fill the container with helium, place in mass spectrometer, detect the helium leakage. Sensitivity is 10 raised to minus 6 mbars liters per centimeter. Uh, liter per sorry this unit we need to check, and the advantage that we have is extremely sensitive and the quantitative. We also have one limitation for this, it's very expensive. Then moving on to the high voltage leak detection, this is the third modern test we have. Principle is simply electrical conductivity difference detected when the current passes through the container, and again it's used for the liquid filled containers, and advantage is rapid and non-destructive. Then we have laser headspace analysis. Here the laser measures the oxygen and or the moisture inside the container headspace. If leak exists, gas composition changes. It's used for the lyophilized drugs. Moving on to the leak size concept. Critical leak size determines the contamination risk. So here we have like if it is greater than 20 micrometer micrometer, then it's liquid leakage. Then 5 to 10, it's the microbial ingress. Less than 1, it's a gas leakage. Regulatory expectation is detect the leaks capable of microbial ingress. Moving on to the CCIT validation, we also have to perform the validation of container closure integrity test. So which parameters we have to demonstrate? These are the specificity, sensitivity, reproducibility, and robustness. So it should be able to detect the leaks only. That is specific sensitivity detect the smallest critical leak. Reproducibility consistent results. Robustness should be stable under the condition. And often artificially detected container are used. Artificially defected containers are used. Then examples are the laser drill holes, micro capillaries, and needle punches. Moving on to the stability program, CCIT. Testing time points are the initial. So initially, as I mentioned earlier, we have to do sterility as well as CCIT. At the batch release stage, you cannot replace the sterility test with the integrity test. At the batch release, you have to perform both. At 6 months, you could go with CCIT, 12 month, 24 month, as well as expiry. CCIT could be used, but not at the batch release or at the initial stage. FDA recommends CCIT annually and at expiration. NDA, ANDA submission, CMC sections, we have to submit this into 3 to P2, P5, P8 stability data, include the description, validation report, acceptance criteria, and stability results. Then FDA deficiency examples. They have given some example like applicant used dye ingress without sensitivity data. As I mentioned earlier, we need to prove the validation as well, like whether it is specific, sensitive, reproducible, robust. So all that we have to provide. So if we are failed to provide the sensitivity data, then it could be an regulatory flag. And FDA comments demonstrate method sensitivity equivalent to the microbial ingress risk. Second example, we have deficiency. No validation for stopper while combination. So FDA requirement is to validate each container closure system, stopper vial as well, combination. Okay, for each system you have to perform stopper as well as vial. Then moving on to the third deficiency that is commonly observed, like no defect library use, and FDA expectation was to use artificial defect to determine method sensitivity. Then acceptance criteria, vacuum decay, whether it is pass, fail threshold that they have. Then helium leak has some specific acceptance criteria, and HVLD has no leak detect. Criteria must correlate with the microbial ingress risk, because our ultimate aim is to prevent the entry of microbes inside our final product. Then we have advanced concept like deterministic versus probabilistic features. If we talk about sensitivity, then our deterministic methods are very highly sensitive. These are modern, but probabilistic, obviously, they have low sensitivity. Data automation, data is quantitative, probabilistic, qualitative. So here we could only determine whether it is pass or fail, but here we'll also get to what extent this microorganism or particular dye has entered into our final product. Then automation could be possible with modern method, but not with the traditional method. And regulatory preference is obviously go with the modern method, which are the deterministic, and they prefer not to go with the probabilistic method. USP 1207, as I mentioned earlier, it strongly encouraged the deterministic methods. Then we have common FDA inspection findings are the no CCIT validation data, then dye ingress used without sensitivity studies, lack of stability CCIT testing, no justification of acceptance criteria, container closure compatibility not evaluated. Then industry trends, we have modern pharmaceutical industry moving towards the 100% online CCIT, non-destructive testing, automated inspection system, and automated vacuum decay and machine vision system. Key guidelines, you can remember 1207 is for the CCIT guideline, FDA CCIT guidance, then ICH Q1A is for stability requirement, and Q6A for the specification. Simple examples, injectable product, 10 ml glass vial, rubber stopper, aluminum seal, CCIT method. Vacuum decay acceptance criteria is no pressure change, that's the threshold, and testing could be initial 12-month, 24-month, and expired. Last, we have key interview question. If you are going for interview for the regulated role, that then you might come across questions like, why does FDA prefer deterministic method? Answer could be like, you could explain it's quantitative, highly sensitive, reproducible, scientifically reliable, and that's why FDA accepts this. So that's for today. Thank you so much.